Okay, welcome back to another big question. Again, these big questions are coming from CSM classes that I teach almost weekly. At the beginning of every class these days, I ask the students, what are your big questions that you want answered right here at the beginning of class? So these are questions that come out before I've taught them anything about Scrum. Let's take a look at today's question. It says, how do you differentiate between roles within a Scrum team, especially for the product manager versus project manager? Okay, so these are common misconceptions of what happens on a Scrum team, what goes on, who's involved, who's on a Scrum team. Well, there are no product managers or project managers described in Scrum. We've got three roles in Scrum. Or these days, we can call them accountabilities. I still like calling them roles. So I'm going to call them roles. We've got the product owner, the Scrum master, and the developers. The product owner is in charge of, well, the product. They almost literally own the product. They're supposed to be making all the decisions about the product's future, how to align their own personal vision for the product's future with how it should be developed and released to customers. So they create this grand vision for the product, and then they take that vision, break it down into long-term product goals. By long-term, I'm going to say something between 1 month and 6 months. Sometimes you see product goals that are 9 months long. And these are real general periods of time. They're kind of squishy. They change as the developers develop the product. So anyway, they take these big product goals, and so some product owners will do it differently than others. The way I've seen it done mostly in the past is they take a large product goal, they chop it up into the individual features that go into those goals, and then feature by feature, they create a feature roadmap that really just consists of sprint goal, sprint goal, sprint goal, sprint goal. And when you add up all of those sprint goals, now we have a feature to release to customers. So the product owner is really focused on the future of the product. They daily are going to be prioritizing and ordering the product backlog based on their own value system for what's on the product backlog. And also daily, they're going to be talking to stakeholders, people internal and external from our organization, who either are customers, vendors, or whatever, users of our product, or they represent large segments of those customers, vendors, or users. They could be pretty much anybody in the world who has a stake in what the team does. So the product owner is going to be interfacing with stakeholders constantly so that they can revise that vision for the product. The developers, well, they are product developers. Please don't confuse the term developers in use with Scrum teams as software developers. Scrum, though it was created first for software products, is not just for software anymore. It still does very, very well with software, and that's the primary use of Scrum, is with software products, but it's not the only use. So these days, when you hear the word developer in relation to a Scrum team, don't just think software developer. Maybe start thinking product developer. Developers on Scrum teams, they run the gamut of skill sets. I've already talked about this in an earlier video, but when we say developer, we mean anybody on a Scrum team who's actually developing the product. So here I'm going to go back to software because that's my forte. You're going to have database engineers, you're going to have front end or user interface engineers, you're going to have web services engineers, you're going to have architecture or architects, you're going to have all kinds of people who are focused on the software, but you're also going to have manual testers, hopefully mostly automated testers, analysts of all different kinds, maybe marketing professionals. When I was working in the insurance industry, we had lawyers on some of the Scrum teams. You could have salespeople on Scrum teams. All of these people that are doing the work for the product, they are called developers. So really, if you are not the product owner or the Scrum master, you're a developer. The Scrum Master is that person who's focused on the people using Scrum. They're focused on the process that was created using Scrum as a framework. And they're focused on facilitation, making sure that we're all actually getting to the point when we discuss things and when we try to, when we try to, continually improve our process, making sure that every time we meet as a group, we're getting to the point and just generally making what we do in those meetings easier. So getting to the goal easier. So I left out product manager and project manager, right? Right, because there's no room on a Scrum team for these two roles, these two titles, these two jobs. The product owner actually has a large overlap. I'm using my hands as a Venn diagram. If one of them is project manager and one of them is product owner, there's a real big overlap between the skills and responsibilities of each of them. Yes, there are things left out on the project manager side, and those might overlap slightly with the Scrum Master or the developers on a Scrum team. And there are things left out on the product owner side that a project manager doesn't do. But for the most part, project managers and product owners, they overlap quite a bit in what they're responsible for and what they do, skill-wise. As far as product management goes, product management, the way I see it, is a superset. So if we're still talking Venn diagrams, if you've got the product owner and you've got the product manager, the product manager fully encompasses everything a product owner does, and they do more. A product manager might actually manage multiple products. They might get heavily involved in the marketing of one or several of those products. They might get heavily involved in the sales of one or multiple products. Typically, product owners don't get involved too much in the sales or the marketing of a product, but product managers could. Product management is not my forte. It's not really my area of expertise, but I will tell you this much. Product management is much, much more than product ownership is. So be prepared for that. When you go into an organization that is confusing the two things, there is a traditional product manager usually that oversees one or several product owners. And I'm going to say usually in large enterprise size organizations. If you're in a medium or small size company, you may not have a product manager at all, or your product manager may just take on the product ownership role in a Scrum team. So that's actually what's going on. We don't have these two roles, product manager and project manager, in Scrum. That doesn't mean that they won't exist in your organization. One thing I didn't say about project managers in a company that uses Scrum is that project managers will sometimes, in again, really large enterprise size organizations, project managers might sit outside of a Scrum team and take care of administrative business for the team. That doesn't mean that the Scrum team can't do it. It just means that they have that extra help on the outside. Part of becoming self-managing, which is the maturity goal of Scrum teams these days, is to actually take on all of the responsibilities for this team. So eventually we would expect that project manager to either become part of the team or not be needed anymore because the Scrum team is actually managing themselves. So think about that. If you have any questions or comments, please put it in the comments section below. Also, you can get a hold of me at my email address, wisdom@wisescrum.com. And yeah, feel free to look me up on LinkedIn and leave any comments on any posts that I have on LinkedIn. So thanks, and I'll see you next time.